Good morning, friends. I'm preaching my sermon this morning from one of my favorite spots in the neighborhood, at the top of the stairs in Patricia Ravine, at the intersection of 156th Street and, well, the river. Today, our theme for worship borrows from one of our favorite congregational hymns, from I Am the Church. The church is not a building, the church is not a steeple, the church is not a resting place, the church is a people. And so I thought it fitting to get out of our church building and into the neighborhood. This spot is a people-oriented intersection. You can't drive at this spot at 80 kilometers an hour. You can only walk here. And every day, Tabor and I, with our dog Geo, stop by and visit this viewpoint. Some days we go into the ravine, other days we go off to Wolf Willow, and many days we just come to stop here and have a grateful moment. And nearly every time we come here, we see people, many neighbors, exercising on the stairs, out for a moment in nature, chatting with other friends and neighbors. Have you noticed, in the areas you live, a larger abundance of people out and about? Since we are being encouraged to stay home, and because restaurants, festivals, and the national parks are closed, more and more people are finding joy in appreciating the places in which they live. All of these people, created in the image and likeness of God, out and about, enjoying this late and beautiful spring, meeting at people-oriented intersections just like this one, pausing and being grateful for the blessings in their lives, including their neighbors. Our scripture for today is from two places, the book of Acts and John's Gospel. The story from Acts takes place after the story of the Pentecost. Paul is out traveling the world spreading the gospel. In Athens, Paul takes note of the many temples scattered throughout the city, beautiful marble temples built to the gods. I know you can imagine the ruins in your head. Paul had gathered a crowd to preach at the Areopagus, which was the temple built for Ares, the god of war. As part of his sermon, he notes that there is a temple built and dedicated to an unknown god. Perhaps the Athenians want to cover all their bases in case they missed a god or something like that. But Paul takes this moment to talk about the God of the Israelites, God, the creator, reconciler, and sanctifier. Paul famously declares that the God, the creator of the universe, God in whom we live and move and have our being, cannot be contained within buildings made by human hands, buildings which are now famously known for having ruined. I think this is an important message for us as we gather for worship virtually and live out our life as the church in ways that are not centered around our church building. This got me thinking about Jesus in the Gospels. I realized just this week that Jesus never once invited his followers to gather in prayer in the temple or even in one of the synagogues scattered throughout Israel. Sure, Jesus met with the Pharisees, temple priests, and other authorities in dedicated religious buildings, but this was often in an adversarial context. Jesus stood up to authority in religious buildings. Meanwhile, his ministry was almost entirely carried out in other, decidedly unreligious places, like dining room tables, for example in John's scripture today, on mountaintops, in fishing boats, in people's homes, at weddings, and in at least one case, on someone's roof. We Moravians should not consider our church buildings as especially sacred places. All of the world is created by God, and in creation, that is where we meet God. We do not build elaborate sanctuaries with relics of the saints. We do not have an altar, but a common worship table, a table where ordinary things, bread, wine, books, images, are used to draw attention to our relationship with God. In fact, even the use of the word sanctuary is a misnomer. Theologically, we should call the space we ordinarily worship in a Saal, which is a German word meaning hall, like a community living room. Now, I do not mean to disparage our building. It is a beautiful place, with a memorial garden where some of the saints of Rio are interred. Under normal circumstances, it is one of our most valuable tools for ministry. It is a vital community hub where friends and neighbors gather for myriad reasons, to seek self-care, to nurture young people, to practice art, to grow in faith, to celebrate at a wedding or mourn at a funeral. No, our building is important and valuable. But God is not contained within it. The gospel is not reserved for its exclusive use. This time of pandemic has forced us all to rethink how we can be the church, how we can best be the church in a responsive and responsible way. And so we meet Jesus, gathered around a dining room table with his friends, telling them, "If you love me, keep my commandment to love God and each other." This is the meaning of discipleship, he says, love. And if you love, you will have the Spirit, the Advocate, who will go with you wherever you are. So as we gather virtually here at this people-oriented intersection, I am so grateful to be with you, journeying as we love our neighbors. Now that government and business leaders are making preparations to return to normal or reopen, I hope that this COVID pause will provide us an opportunity to deeply ponder and grow in our understanding of what it means to be the church. Over the next few weeks, your church board and I will be considering ways to safely reopen our church building. But I hope that you, in your discernment, will share your ideas and insights with us. I believe that we have been remarkably mission-driven during this COVID pause, even as we haven't been able to gather for worship in person. What are the things we want to carry with us into the future as we better seek to love God, neighbor, and self? Amen.